Chapter 1. I've never been the quiet, obedient type. From the moment I could walk, I knew what I wanted, and I took it. My father, the ever-busy CEO of Chen Industries, had always indulged me. Every whim, every desire, every extravagant little craving, fulfilled without hesitation. Branded handbags lined my closet like an army of colorful soldiers, my shoes glimmered in neat rows, and my jewelry sparkled in every corner of my room. I was spoiled, pampered, and unapologetically me. People often whispered that I had an attitude problem. I like to call it confidence. But sure, maybe my temper flared when someone dared question me. Maybe I snapped at the smallest inconvenience. And yes, I had a shopping habit that could make a billionaire weep, but I didn't care. Life was meant to be enjoyed, and I had mastered the art of indulgence. That indulgence didn't stop when I grew older. When I turned 25, my father, ever the shrewd businessman, announced one evening over dinner that I was to be arranged to marry one of his partners, Nathaniel Li. I remember nearly choking on my caviar. Married, I sputtered, my fork frozen midair. Yes, Isabella, my father said, calm as always. Nathaniel is a brilliant man. Our family's alliance will be stronger, and this arrangement will benefit everyone. I glared at him, half in indignation, half in disbelief. Marry someone I barely knew, someone who probably expected me to act normal. I, Isabella Chen, the spoiled, sassy daughter of the Chen Empire, was to be tethered to a man like that. But of course, my father's word was law, and so it began. The wedding was lavish, everything I had ever imagined in my wildest, most extravagant fantasies. But marriage to Nathaniel, the man who would become my husband, was different. He was cold, aloof, disciplined, a sharp contrast to my luxurious chaos. Yet there was something satisfying about the way he quietly obeyed my whims. He fed me grapes during dinner, placed my slippers on my feet, and never hesitated to buy whatever I desired while traveling abroad. His patience seemed endless, his dedication unwavering. Still, my temper didn't wane. A slightly overcooked steak, I'd snap. He forgot to close a drawer, I'd lecture. And he, calm, composed Nathaniel Li, would always apologize, sometimes with a soft smile, sometimes with a sigh. I'd never admit it, but part of me secretly loved how much he cared. I often wondered what our marriage would become. Was it just an arrangement, a contract to satisfy our family's ambitions? Or would there ever be something more? I had grown up pampered, indulged, and fiercely independent, but Nathaniel, he made me feel something I had never experienced before. A strange mix of respect, curiosity, and the tiniest spark of warmth I couldn't quite define. As I lounged in my bedroom, flipping through my collection of shopping receipts, each one a testament to my unapologetic indulgence, I realized something. Life had been easy for me, luxurious, controlled, but it had also been empty in a way I hadn't noticed. Perhaps it was time for a new kind of challenge, a life where someone else mattered as much as I did. Nathaniel Li was a challenge, and for the first time I wondered, could I survive it? Could I survive the man who quietly, patiently, always, unfailingly gave himself to me, even when I didn't deserve it? I didn't know the answer yet, but one thing was certain: being Isabella Chen, spoiled, sassy, and unrelenting, had never been boring. And life with Nathaniel promised to be far more interesting than I could have ever imagined. Chapter 2. I had always thought that walking into Nathaniel's office would feel normal, routine even. After all, it wasn't unusual for me to drop by when he was working late. Sometimes I wanted to see him, sometimes I just wanted a little company while he pored over spreadsheets or business reports. That day I strutted into the lobby, heels clicking against the marble floor, perfectly manicured nails brushing against my designer bag. My hair fell in soft waves, and I felt confident, polished, untouchable. Nothing could shake me. Until I overheard the receptionist. "Did you hear? The CEO's in a meeting with Vivian Chen," one whispered to another, her voice a little too loud for casual gossip. "I heard it's some big entertainment deal. Can you imagine? They'd look perfect together." "Seriously," the other replied. "Vivian's gorgeous, Nathaniel's, well, he's perfect too. I'm not surprised he's meeting her in private." I froze mid-step. My heart lurched. Did they not know? Did no one know that I, his wife, the woman he married 3 years ago, was the one who held his life, at least the part of it he had shared with me? Perfect together, I whispered under my breath, a bitter laugh escaping. My vision blurred slightly, not from anger, but from the hollow ache settling in my chest. Perfect together, and I wasn't part of that picture. I spun on my heel, trying to keep my composure, but my hands trembled. I'd never felt this powerless in front of him before. The confident, pampered Bella Chen was suddenly reduced to a woman who didn't know where she stood. I left the building in a daze and called Grace and Lily immediately. "Meet me at the bar," I demanded. My voice was sharp, my temper thin. I needed counsel. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't losing him. A private bar, dim lights, and the faint buzz of music greeted us. Grace poured me a glass of wine. Lily slid a plate of snacks closer. I slumped into the velvet seat, resting my head in my hands. "You won't believe what I overheard at Nathaniel's office today," I groaned. My friends leaned in, eyes wide. They were gossiping about him, about some actress. They think she'd be perfect for him. And no one knows I'm married to him. Grace frowned, shaking her head. "Bella, you can't just sulk and brood. Maybe it was just a business meeting. You know Nathaniel, he's always professional." I snorted, swirling my glass. Professional? He's supposed to be mine. He's supposed to pamper me, adore me, feed me grapes, and bow down when I snap. And now, Vivian Chen, perfect together, it's like I don't exist. Lily placed a hand on mine. Maybe you should try toning down your attitude for a while. He's been patient for years, but even Nathaniel has limits. If you really want to keep him." She trailed off, letting me fill in the blank. I swallowed hard, eyes filling with a strange mix of jealousy and desperation. She was right. I had been spoiled for so long that I hadn't realized Nathaniel might grow tired of my constant demands. Maybe my sassy comebacks, my tantrums, my obsession with luxury, maybe it was time to change. I straightened my back, determination setting in. "Fine," I muttered. "I'll stop being so spoiled. I'll tone it down. I'll make sure he remembers me not just as his obedient wife, but as someone worth keeping." The decision settled in my chest like a stone, heavy but necessary. I had loved him in my own way for 3 years, and the thought of losing him to someone else, no, not to someone else, not even to a rumor, was unbearable. That night, I made my way home with a strange mixture of resolve and anxiety. I didn't know how Nathaniel would react to the new me, but I had to try. I had to prove that Bella Chen could be more than just spoiled, pampered, and sassy. I had to prove that I was the only woman in his life who mattered. And so, a little heartbroken, but fiercely determined, I walked through the door of our home, unaware that Nathaniel was already waiting for me on the couch, concern etched deep into his sharp features. Chapter 3. That night, the moment I stepped into our apartment, I could feel Nathaniel's eyes on me. The soft hum of the air conditioner couldn't drown out the quiet tension that seemed to hang in the room. Usually, he'd look at me with that calm, patient expression, silently waiting for me to demand something ridiculous, like feeding me grapes or picking out my slippers. But tonight it felt different. I tried to act normal, to hide the storm of jealousy and heartbreak from the office gossip. I didn't want him to see that his supposed business dinner with Vivian Chen had cut me to the bone. I wanted to be the new me, the calm, composed Bella who didn't snap at him over every little thing. "Isabella," he said gently, standing as I approached the couch. "Where have you been? You're late, I was worried." Normally, my first instinct would have been to snap at him for noticing my schedule, for worrying, for looking at me like he cared. But I had promised myself, no outbursts, no spoiled tantrums. Not tonight. "I'm sorry, Nathaniel," I said softly, avoiding his gaze. My voice sounded strange, almost foreign in my own ears. I had to convince him and myself that I could change. He blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Sorry for being late." He stepped closer, concern written across his face. "Is something wrong? Are you sick? Are you?" "I'm fine," I interrupted, trying to keep my tone even. But even as I said it, a small, involuntary snark slipped out. "I'm just tired." Immediately, I covered my mouth with my hand, my cheeks heating up in embarrassment. That little remark had nearly undone all my restraint. Without another word, I turned on my heel and rushed to our bedroom, closing the door behind me. I could hear him sigh from the living room, probably confused, probably worried. I couldn't bear to see it. Later that night, when I tried to sleep, I felt the bed shift slightly. Nathaniel had entered the room, sitting beside me, his presence impossibly comforting. His strong arms wrapped around me, holding me close. "Bella, are you really okay?" he whispered. His voice was soft, careful, full of concern. I stayed silent, pretending to be asleep. My heart was pounding, my mind spinning. How could I explain to him that I had overheard the gossip, that I felt replaced, that I was terrified of losing him even though I had loved him for years? I couldn't, not tonight. The following days were a test of my resolve. I avoided snapping at him, tried to suppress my spoiled tendencies, and kept my distance just enough to prevent an outburst. Every time he approached me with a gentle smile or an attempt at conversation, I forced myself to respond calmly, carefully, hiding the storm of jealousy and fear that raged within me. Nathaniel, of course, noticed. He always noticed. He would corner me gently, place a hand against my cheek, brush a stray hair from my face, and lean in close enough to whisper, "Tell me what's wrong, Isabella." But I refused. Every time I shook my head, forcing a small smile, pretending everything was fine. It was exhausting. It was agonizing. I was used to being pampered, to letting my emotions explode without consequence. Now I had to bite my tongue, keep my temper at bay, and pretend I didn't care about the office gossip that had shattered my peace. But even as I avoided him, even as I tried to act cold and distant, I couldn't ignore the small, dangerous thrill that came from seeing him worry, seeing him chase after me in his quiet, determined way. I hated that I still cared. I hated that his concern made my heart skip. And most of all, I hated that I wanted him more than I had ever wanted anything in my life. Change was hard, but if it meant keeping Nathaniel by my side, I was willing to try, no matter how much it hurt, no matter how much it challenged the spoiled, sassy girl I had always been. Chapter 4. The days following my decision to stop being spoiled passed slowly, each one dragging like molasses. Normally, our apartment was filled with my chatter, my demands, my endless lists of things I wanted Nathaniel to do for me. But now, silence. A suffocating silence that seemed to echo off the walls, as if the apartment itself disapproved of my sudden restraint. Nathaniel noticed it immediately. I could see it in the way he tilted his head when I didn't speak back to his questions, in the way his brows knitted when I didn't demand anything, in the way his eyes lingered on me a little too long, searching, curious, concerned. That evening, I returned home later than usual, my friends having coaxed me into a long dinner to distract myself from the gossip at his office. My heels clicked softly on the floor, my bag swinging from my shoulder, and for a moment, I almost felt normal again. Almost. Nathaniel was on the couch, hands clasped loosely, eyes fixed on me as I entered. My heart stumbled. Normally, I would stride in and demand to know why he wasn't tending to me or comment on something trivial, anything to maintain control. But tonight, I couldn't. "Bella," he said calmly, standing as I approached, his voice steady but edged with concern. "You're late." I was starting to worry. I forced myself to meet his gaze, taking a deep breath. I'm sorry," I murmured, soft and subdued. The words tasted foreign in my mouth. I expected him to raise an eyebrow, to give me that little knowing smirk, but he didn't. Instead, he looked puzzled. "Sorry," he repeated, "for being late." His voice was quiet, careful. "Is everything okay? Are you sick? You've been avoiding me lately." I felt a flicker of irritation. I wanted to snap, to tell him off for noticing, for worrying, for existing in the room. But I didn't. I swallowed it down, pressing my lips together, nodding quickly. "I'm fine," I said. A small snark slipped out before I could stop it. "Just tired, I guess." Immediately, I clapped a hand over my mouth, realizing too late that I had broken my own promise to myself. Nathaniel froze, his brow furrowing slightly. He stepped closer, gaze searching mine, and I felt the heat rise to my cheeks. Before he could say anything, I spun on my heel and dashed to our bedroom, closing the door with a soft click. Leaning against it, I exhaled sharply, heart hammering in my chest. This was harder than I had imagined. Pretending to be calm, to be reasonable, to be normal was exhausting. I missed the comfort of being spoiled, of letting my temper flare, of demanding and receiving his undivided attention. Later that night, I felt the bed shift, the warmth of his presence settling beside me. He wrapped his arms around me, holding me tighter than I expected. "Bella, are you really okay?" His voice was soft, full of concern and something else I couldn't quite name: worry, fear. I pretended to be asleep, keeping my eyes shut, my breathing slow and measured. I didn't want to admit that I had overheard the gossip at the office, that I was scared and jealous, that I wanted him more than I had ever allowed myself to want anything. Days stretched on, each one testing my resolve. I avoided snapping, avoided demands, avoided any action that might provoke his attention. Yet Nathaniel always found ways to pull me in, to corner me with a touch, a glance, a question. Every time he came close, I felt my heart race, and I hated myself for it. I was changing for him, for us, but I hadn't realized just how much I would miss the old dynamic, the chaos of my spoiled, sassy self. And I hadn't realized just how much it would hurt to feel his concern and not give in to the comfort of it. Love, I realized, wasn't about indulgence. It was about sacrifice. And for the first time, I wondered if I was truly ready to give Nathaniel my heart without demanding anything in return. Chapter 5. The following week was unbearable. I thought keeping my distance, toning down my spoiled habits, and controlling my temper would make Nathaniel appreciate me more. But instead, it seemed to confuse him. He looked at me differently now, like he was trying to solve a puzzle that I didn't want him to understand. Every time I walked into his office, he was there. Sometimes standing by the door, sometimes leaning casually against his desk, always watching, always waiting. His dark eyes seemed to read everything I tried so hard to hide. Normally, I would have rolled my eyes, snapped a witty remark, and sauntered past him triumphant. But now, I couldn't. I felt trapped by my own self-imposed restraint. "Bella," he said one morning, voice low and controlled, yet carrying a hint of worry. "You've been avoiding me. Is something wrong?" I froze mid-step, clutching my coffee cup a little too tightly. Avoiding him, was that really so obvious? I tried to force a smile. "I'm fine," I said softly, almost too softly. "I just have a lot on my mind." He frowned, walking closer, his presence intimidating yet comforting all at once. "You're not fine. You've been distant since last week. Did I do something?" I wanted to shout, to snap, to demand him to leave me alone, but I swallowed it down, keeping my voice steady. "No, you didn't do anything. I'm just tired." His frown deepened. "Bella, don't lie to me. I can tell when you're upset. You've been avoiding me. Even during dinner last night, you barely touched your food. What's going on?" I felt a flicker of irritation. How could he notice everything and still have the audacity to ask? But instead of snapping, I shook my head, my lips pressing into a tight line. "Nothing, Nathaniel, really." He sighed, his hand brushing mine briefly on the countertop. "Bella," his voice softened, "you can tell me, I won't be angry." I wanted to tell him everything. About the gossip, the office rumors, the way my heart had nearly stopped when I imagined him with that actress. I wanted to tell him I was scared of losing him, that the idea of him with someone else made my chest ache. But I couldn't. I refused. I had promised myself I would change, and confessing my feelings now felt like admitting weakness. So I walked away. Literally. I turned on my heel and left the office, my heart pounding, leaving Nathaniel standing there, confused, frustrated, and more concerned than ever. The days dragged on, each encounter tinged with tension. He would corner me in the hallway, lean close during meetings, brush against my hand in a casual gesture. But every time I avoided letting him see my true feelings. I avoided letting myself feel them. I was afraid. Afraid of losing control, afraid of being hurt, afraid of what would happen if I let him see the real me. And yet, even in my careful avoidance, I couldn't ignore the pull between us. Every glance, every touch, every lingering moment reminded me of how much I cared for him, how much I had always cared, how much I still did. It was confusing, frustrating, and terrifying all at once. I wanted to be the perfect, calm, unspoiled wife, but I also wanted to scream, to throw a tantrum, to demand him back, to remind him that he was mine. But I couldn't, not yet, not while this fragile, unspoken tension existed between us. And deep down, I knew that one misstep could shatter everything. One wrong glance, one careless word, and the delicate balance I had built between control and desire could collapse, leaving us both exposed, raw, and vulnerable. I just hoped. I hoped Nathaniel would understand me before it was too late. Chapter 6. It was late evening when I finally returned home, the soft glow of the city lights spilling through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our apartment. I had spent the day at the spa, trying to calm my nerves, trying to focus on being a better wife. But the truth was, every step I took closer to home tightened the knot in my stomach. Nathaniel was there, as usual, sitting on the couch, arms crossed, eyes sharp and calculating. The moment I walked in, he didn't stand, didn't greet me, he just watched, and I could feel the weight of his gaze like a physical presence pressing down on me. "Bella," he said quietly, his voice calm but icy, "we need to talk." My chest tightened. I had been avoiding this, avoiding him, avoiding confrontation, avoiding the truth that had been bubbling beneath my restraint. But there was no escaping now. I started, then stopped. My mouth felt dry, my hands trembling slightly as I dropped my bag by the door. He stood suddenly, closing the distance between us. "Do you even realize what you've been doing?" he asked, his dark eyes burning into mine. "Avoiding me, ignoring me, acting like you're someone else." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm just trying to." "To what?" he interrupted sharply. "To please me, to not annoy me. Bella, you don't need to. I don't even know what to do with you lately." I flinched at the intensity of his words, at the rare edge of frustration in his tone. Normally, he was calm, collected, always in control. But now he was raw, human, and it terrified me. I just don't want to," I began, but my voice faltered. "I don't want to ruin things between us. I heard the office gossip, and I don't want you to leave me." Nathaniel froze, his expression shifting from anger to disbelief, and then something softer, something that made my heart ache. He stepped closer, his hands gently cupping my face. "Bella, I'm not leaving you," he said, voice low and urgent. "Do you hear me? I'm not leaving you. I've never wanted anyone but you." I blinked, caught off guard. My lips trembled as I tried to process his words. My chest tightened as tears welled up, tears I had been holding back for weeks. "But what about the actress?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Nathaniel's jaw tightened, a flicker of frustration crossing his handsome face. "The actress? Bella, that was business. Nothing else. I don't care about anyone else. You," he paused, letting his words sink in, "you are the only woman I've ever wanted, and I don't care what anyone else thinks." I felt my knees weaken. The dam inside me broke. I stepped closer, reaching out instinctively, and he pulled me into his arms. Strong, protective, unyielding. I buried my face in his chest, crying quietly, feeling his heartbeat against mine. I just wanted you to stay with me," I admitted, my voice muffled. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't lose me," he whispered back, pressing a gentle kiss to the top of my head. "Not now, not ever." For the first time in weeks, I let myself feel safe. The tension, the misunderstandings, the fear, they all melted away in the warmth of his embrace. And I realized, even as I clung to him, that love wasn't about being spoiled or demanding attention or even controlling the narrative. It was about trust, about honesty, about letting each other in completely. That night in his arms, I promised myself I would try. Not for the office gossip, not for appearances, but for him, for us. And as Nathaniel held me close, I could feel the fragile beginnings of something stronger than spoiled tantrums or jealousy. A love that was finally real. Chapter 7. The morning after our confrontation, the apartment felt different. It wasn't just the lingering scent of his cologne or the warmth of his embrace I had left myself tangled in the night before. It was something subtler, something that hummed beneath the walls and furniture like an electric current. Nathaniel had stayed beside me until I fell asleep, and I woke to find him gone for work. Normally, I would have worried or felt abandoned, but today, I felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in weeks, I didn't have to keep up the charade. No pretending to be distant, no biting back the spoiled tantrums, no tiptoeing around his moods. Last night, he had seen me. All of me, vulnerable, messy, emotional, and he had stayed. Not just stayed, but embraced me fully, acknowledged me fully. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. I spent the morning tidying up, but my mind kept wandering. What did it mean, him saying I was the only one he had ever wanted? Did he truly mean it, or was it just words spoken in the heat of the moment? I wanted to believe him. I wanted to trust him, but old habits die hard. Years of being pampered, of demanding and receiving, had built walls around my heart, and even Nathaniel's unwavering presence couldn't knock them all down at once. When I arrived at his office, he was already there, seated behind his desk, looking impossibly composed in his tailored suit. I paused at the doorway, unsure whether to approach him. But he looked up, caught my gaze, and for the first time in weeks, I felt seen without having to perform. "Good morning, Bella," he said quietly, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Did you sleep well?" I swallowed nervously. "Yes, better than I have in a while," I admitted. The words felt foreign leaving my mouth. He nodded, setting aside the files in front of him. "I'm glad. You didn't have to pretend last night. I want you to be yourself. Not the spoiled, sassy persona, not the distant one either. Just you." I felt my heart flutter. "You mean it?" I asked cautiously. "Of course I do," he said firmly. "I love every part of you, Bella. The spoiled, the sassy, the vulnerable, even the angry. I don't want you to change for me, just let me in." I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. For so long, I had wielded my attitude and temper like weapons, convinced that control over Nathaniel meant control over my world. But last night, I realized control had nothing to do with love. Trust had everything to do with it. As the days passed, our dynamic slowly shifted. I let myself smile more freely in his presence, teasing him in small ways without the edge of resentment. Nathaniel, in turn, softened around me, no longer just the cold, aloof CEO I had married out of obligation. He laughed with me, leaned close to whisper jokes, and even brought me coffee without me asking. Small gestures, but each one chipped away at the walls I had built around my heart. Yet, despite this newfound closeness, I remained cautious. The office gossip still lingered in my mind, the memory of the actress still pricking at the edges of my confidence. I didn't want to give in completely until I was certain I could trust him fully, until I knew that last night's words weren't fleeting. Then came the evening that tested everything. We had shared a particularly steamy night earlier, fueled by months of tension and unresolved desire. I had felt closer to him than ever, and yet, when I woke the next morning, reality hit me like a hammer. The faint flutter in my stomach, the new awareness, told me I might be pregnant. My heart leapt, but before I could fully rejoice, my phone buzzed with news headlines. My breath caught as I read, "Successful CEO spotted dining with famous actress." My chest tightened, panic rising. The fear I had fought so hard to suppress came rushing back. Was I too late? Had I misread everything? Nathaniel returned home that night, and as our eyes met, I realized I didn't have to hide anymore. The distance, the misunderstandings, they were dissolving. But the real challenge had only just begun. Could I trust him fully, and could he reassure me without words that we were truly together, now and forever? Chapter 8. It had only been a few weeks since Nathaniel and I had begun rebuilding our fragile connection, since our confrontation that had peeled back the layers of misunderstanding and fear. I thought I could finally breathe again, thought that the weight of distance and suspicion was behind us. But life had a way of complicating even the most carefully constructed piece. That morning, I had woken feeling unusually tired, the faintest flutter in my stomach making me pause mid-step. At first, I dismissed it, attributing it to stress, fatigue, or something I had eaten. But as the day wore on, the fluttering returned, accompanied by a strange mix of anticipation and fear. My mind refused to consider the possibility, yet deep down, a quiet voice whispered that I already knew the truth. I arrived home that evening, eager to share the news with Nathaniel, to feel his arms around me and his calm presence wash away my doubts. My phone buzzed with notifications as I entered the apartment. Thinking nothing of it, I unlocked it and froze. The headline on my news app made my heart stop. Successful CEO spotted dining with famous actress. Are they dating? I stared at the photo, my stomach dropping. Nathaniel was there, seated across from a stunning actress at a fancy restaurant, smiling politely while the paparazzi captured every angle. My chest tightened, a familiar pang of panic and jealousy clawing at me. My hand trembled as I dropped the phone onto the couch, unable to look at it any longer. My emotions collided, relief, fear, anger, sadness all at once. Relief, because I realized the flutter in my stomach wasn't imagined. Fear, because of the photo and what the gossip implied. Anger, because the universe seemed intent on testing me again and again. Sadness, because I didn't know how to face Nathaniel with my news now. I stumbled to the kitchen, tears blurring my vision, and opened the freezer. Ice cream, a tub of chocolate, the one he always bought for me. I sat on the floor, digging in with a spoon, letting the sweet comfort fill the void in my chest. My body shook, my mind racing. How could I tell him? What if he thought I didn't trust him? What if he really was involved with that actress? The sound of the front door opening made me freeze mid-bite. Nathaniel. My body stiffened, but instinctively, I didn't move. I buried my face in the ice cream, trying to hide my tears, trying to shield myself from the onslaught of emotion I could no longer contain. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyes wide, instantly scanning the scene. "Bella," his voice was calm but urgent. "What's going on? Are you okay?" I couldn't respond. I cried harder, the spoon trembling in my hand as I continued shoveling ice cream into my mouth. The emotions I had suppressed for weeks spilled over, and all I could do was sob. He moved quickly, kneeling beside me, wrapping me in his arms. "Bella, look at me," he whispered. "Talk to me." I slapped his chest, more from panic than anger, yet I didn't push him away. He held me tighter, murmuring reassurances, apologizing for things I hadn't even done. I finally let myself be carried, my fears and insecurities spilling out in trembles and tears. I'm pregnant," I blurted through my sobs, the words barely audible. My heart pounded and my hands shook. "But I saw the photo, the headline, the actress." Nathaniel's grip tightened, and he gently lifted my chin, looking into my eyes. "Bella," he said softly but firmly, "you are the only woman I've ever wanted. That dinner, it was business. Nothing else. And this baby is ours. Nothing can change that, do you understand?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face, and let myself finally lean into him, letting go of fear. His arms held me steady, a safe harbor amid the storm of my emotions. For the first time in days, I felt a tentative sense of peace, knowing that despite the gossip, the misunderstandings, and my own panic, Nathaniel was truly mine, and that our future, with this new life growing inside me, was finally beginning. Chapter 9. The following days felt surreal. One moment, I was curled up on the couch, my mind spiraling through fears and rumors. The next, Nathaniel was beside me, holding my hand, guiding me through every anxious thought. Even though he had reassured me about the photo and the headline, the tiny seed of doubt still lingered, refusing to fade entirely. "Bella," Nathaniel said one evening as we sat on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below us. He held my hand gently, his thumb stroking the back of my palm. "I want you to know, no one, nothing can ever change what we have. I'm yours, always." I swallowed hard, trying to steady my trembling voice. "I know, sometimes I see things, I hear gossip, and it scares me." He leaned closer, his forehead resting against mine. "Bella, you don't have to fear. I promise you and this baby, our family, that's all that matters to me. Not headlines, not rumors, not anyone else. Only you." His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, but old habits die hard. I had spent years relying on material things, on status and control, on being pampered to feel secure. Letting myself truly trust someone, it was frightening. Especially someone like Nathaniel, the cold, aloof CEO who had captivated my heart for so long, even when I refused to admit it. The days blurred together as I tried to balance my emotions and my pregnancy. Nathaniel insisted on accompanying me to every doctor's appointment, even taking time off from work when necessary. His concern wasn't overbearing. It was gentle, steady, unwavering. And slowly, I began to see him not as the untouchable figure I had once admired from afar, but as the man who had loved me quietly for years, who had protected me in ways I had never realized. One afternoon, while sitting together in the nursery we had begun preparing, I let my hand rest on my growing belly. Nathaniel wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting lightly on my shoulder. "Our little one," he murmured. "Can you believe it? Soon this tiny life will be ours." I nodded, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "I was so scared before. I thought I might lose you, or maybe you would think I wasn't enough." He shook his head, pressing a soft kiss to my temple. "Bella, you've always been enough, and you always will be. I was foolish to let any thought of another woman even cross your mind. I only want you, only ever you." I exhaled, finally letting go of the last remnants of fear. Nathaniel had proven his love not just in words, but in actions, through patience, through unwavering support, through understanding. And now, for the first time, I truly believed him. Later that evening, we sat together on the couch, planning names for our baby, laughing at ridiculous ideas and dreaming about the life we would build. The laughter, the ease, the warmth between us, it was a stark contrast to the tension and doubt that had filled the weeks before. And yet, it felt natural, right, inevitable. I realized then that love wasn't just about passion or grand gestures. It was about trust, about showing up every day, about being present in the small moments as well as the big ones. And Nathaniel had shown me, repeatedly, that he was there, completely, unquestionably, for me and for the life we were creating together. As I leaned into him, feeling his steady heartbeat against mine, I whispered softly, "I love you, Nathaniel." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "And I love you, Bella, more than anything." And in that moment, all the fears, the doubts, and the rumors melted away. I knew we had survived the storm, and now we were ready to face the future together, hand in hand, heart in heart, and a new life growing between us. Chapter 10. The days were growing warmer, the spring sun spilling golden light across the city, and with it came a restlessness I couldn't ignore. My belly had grown round and firm, a constant reminder that our lives were about to change forever. Yet, despite Nathaniel's calm reassurances, I felt that familiar tremor of doubt in my chest. What if I wasn't ready? What if he changed his mind? I was in the living room, curled up on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me, staring absent-mindedly at the city lights outside the window. Nathaniel entered quietly, as he always did, carrying 2 mugs of warm tea. He set one down beside me, then knelt at my feet, taking my hands in his. "You're quiet today," he observed softly. "What's on your mind?" I hesitated, my fingers tightening around his. I keep thinking," I admitted. "What if all this, what if us, it's too much? I've been spoiled my whole life. I've demanded so much, and now I'm asking even more." Nathaniel's gaze softened. "Bella," he said firmly, "you don't have to apologize for being yourself. I've loved you from the start, even when you were sassy, spoiled, and stubborn. And I love you even more now. You've never asked for too much. You've asked for honesty, for patience, and I promise you, I'm here for all of it." I wanted to believe him, wanted to let the fear melt away, but I couldn't help but glance at the latest news alerts on my phone. Rumors about Nathaniel's business dealings, mentions of his public appearances. It was impossible not to think that somewhere, somehow, people would misinterpret him, misinterpret us. I'm scared," I whispered. "Scared that something will come between us before our baby is born." He drew me closer, resting his forehead against mine. "Bella, look at me," he said, his voice steady, unwavering. "Nothing, no rumor, no misunderstanding, no one will ever come between us. You, me, our baby, that's all that matters, I swear it." I felt tears prick my eyes, but this time they weren't just from fear. They were from relief, from love, from the overwhelming certainty that he meant every word. I leaned into him, letting myself melt against his chest, finally letting go of the lingering tension I had carried for weeks. Nathaniel pulled back slightly, smiling gently. "You know," he said, brushing a strand of hair from my face, "I've been waiting for this moment since the day I first saw you at my office. I've been waiting to hold you like this, to tell you that no matter what happens, I'll never leave you." I laughed softly, a shaky, emotional sound. "And here I was, worried about a photo and gossip headlines," I admitted. He chuckled, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. "The headlines don't matter, Bella. Only you and our family do. And soon, we'll have a little one to love even more than we love each other." My heart swelled at the thought. I had feared so much, his feelings, the rumors, the unknown future. But now, in this quiet moment, I realized that love wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about avoiding mistakes or gossip. It was about trust, about showing up, about being present for each other, no matter what. I rested my head against his shoulder, closing my eyes. "I love you, Nathaniel," I murmured. "And I love you," he replied, holding me tightly. "Forever, always." As the city lights shimmered outside, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The fear, the doubt, the jealousy, they were all gone, replaced by the certainty of his love and the life we were about to build together. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them side by side as a family. Chapter 11. The apartment buzzed with quiet excitement, a soft chaos of pastel blankets, tiny socks, and the faint scent of baby lotion. Nathaniel had taken it upon himself to help me prepare the nursery, though he insisted on leaving the fun tasks, like folding tiny onesies and arranging plush toys, to me. I couldn't help but smile at the juxtaposition. The same cold, aloof CEO who had once terrified me with his meticulous control was now carefully arranging a mobile over a crib, humming softly under his breath. "I still can't believe this is real," I whispered, running my fingers over the soft sheets. "We're actually going to have a baby." Nathaniel looked up from adjusting the crib mattress, his dark eyes soft and almost tender. "It's very real, Bella, and I promise I'll be there every step of the way. I'll carry you when you need, protect you, support you, love you." I bit my lip, fighting back tears. His words always had a way of slicing through my worries, dissolving the insecurities I'd carried since childhood. I wanted to be the strong, composed woman I often portrayed, but in these moments with him, I could just be myself, vulnerable, emotional, overwhelmed, and utterly loved. The next few days passed in a blur of prenatal appointments, nursery organization, and countless conversations about baby names. Nathaniel insisted on discussing every detail, from the color of the crib sheets to the brand of diapers we would use. I couldn't help but laugh at his intensity. "You realize you're almost as excited as I am, right?" I teased. "I'm not almost as excited," he replied, straightening a stack of soft blankets. "I'm exactly as excited." Our banter felt like a balm, the ease between us growing stronger with each passing day. Gone were the remnants of fear, the jealousy that had haunted me for weeks. Nathaniel had proven himself time and time again, not just as a loving husband, but as a partner willing to face every challenge with me. And now, with a baby on the way, the stakes felt higher, yet safer than ever before. One evening, as the city lights flickered outside the window, Nathaniel found me sitting cross-legged on the floor of the nursery, leafing through a photo album of my childhood. I paused at a picture of my father holding me, his face lit with pride and love. "I hope our baby will have a childhood filled with love like this," I murmured. Nathaniel knelt beside me, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. "They will, Bella. They'll grow up knowing they are loved completely and unconditionally, just like you are, just like I love you." I leaned into him, my heart swelling. "I know, I want to make sure I'm ready. I've been so spoiled, so selfish sometimes. I don't want that to affect our baby." He lifted my chin gently, looking into my eyes. "You're not perfect, Bella, and you never have to be. But your love, your care, your dedication, that's more than enough. You'll be an amazing mother, just like you've been an amazing partner." A soft laugh escaped me, mingling with a few tears. You really know how to make a girl feel better, don't you? Nathaniel smiled, pressing a kiss to my temple. It's a skill I've been hunting for years. You're welcome. As the days turned into weeks, we continued preparing the nursery, discussing names, and dreaming about the life we would soon share with our child. Every small step, every shared smile, and every whispered promise brought us closer, solidifying a bond that no rumor, no misunderstanding, and no obstacle could break. And in those quiet moments, with the crib complete and the nursery filled with hope, I realized something profound. Nathaniel and I weren't just preparing for a baby. We were preparing for a future together, a family built on trust, love, and the unshakable knowledge that, no matter what, we had each other. Chapter 12. The day had begun like any other, yet there was a tension in the air I couldn't shake. I had felt odd flutterings all morning, subtle yet insistent, and by noon I knew something was happening. My heart raced, a mixture of excitement, fear, and anticipation. Nathaniel had noticed the change immediately, his sharp eyes scanning me with concern. "Bella," he said, his deep voice steady but urgent, "what is it?" I think it's time," I whispered, clutching my stomach. A sudden sharp pain made me gasp, and Nathaniel didn't hesitate. He scooped me into his arms with the strength and care I had always admired in him. "We're going now. Everything will be fine. I'm right here." The drive to the hospital was a blur of city streets and flashing lights, but Nathaniel remained calm, guiding me with quiet commands and reassuring words. "Deep breaths, Bella. Focus on me. You're strong. Our baby is strong. We're almost there." At the hospital, the nurses whisked me away with practiced efficiency, and Nathaniel stayed at my side, never letting go of my hand. His presence was a steady anchor in the storm of pain and emotion, and for the first time, I realized how completely I could rely on him, not just as a husband, but as a partner, as the man I would entrust with my heart and our child's life. Hours passed, a blur of contractions, encouragement, and whispered reassurances. Nathaniel held me upright when I needed support, pressed cold cloths to my forehead, and murmured words of love when the pain seemed unbearable. "You're amazing, Bella," he said during one particularly intense contraction. "Our baby is almost here. You're doing perfectly." I gritted my teeth, nodding through the pain and focused on his voice, his unwavering presence grounding me. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the moment arrived. A final push, a burst of effort and relief, and suddenly the world was filled with a cry, a tiny, perfect wail that made my heart explode. "It's a boy," the nurse announced, placing him in my arms. Warm, fragile, and beautiful, our son looked up at me with wide, curious eyes. Tears streamed down my face as I held him close, overwhelmed by love I hadn't known existed. Nathaniel knelt beside me, brushing my damp hair back and leaning in to kiss my temple. "He's perfect," he whispered, voice choked with emotion. "Just like his mother." I laughed softly through my tears, clutching both Nathaniel and our son. "We did it," I murmured. "We really did it." Nathaniel wrapped his arm around me, holding both of us close, and for the first time I felt the full weight of our journey, the years of misunderstandings, the doubts, the insecurities, the small victories, and the immense love that had carried us here. "We did," he agreed, pressing a gentle kiss to my forehead. "And we'll continue to do it every day as a family." Hours later, as we settled into the quiet of the hospital room, I traced my son's tiny fingers with my own, marveling at the life we had created. Nathaniel rested his head beside mine, watching us with a mixture of awe and pride. "I never imagined I could feel this much love," he confessed softly. "You've always had it in you," I whispered, leaning into him. "You just never showed it to anyone but me." He smiled, pressing a kiss to the top of my head. "And I'll show it to you and him every single day, forever." As the night settled around us, the hum of the hospital fading into the background, I realized that our lives had shifted completely. The business arrangements, the misunderstandings, the rumors, they all seemed trivial now. What mattered was this: Nathaniel, our son, and the love that had carried us through every trial. And for the first time in a long time, I felt completely, irrevocably happy. The end. This story was brought to you by Romance Hobbit. Thank you.